Will be supporting this bill. It is driven by the correct concern by the European Union to have their private information on databases, etc., protected when they are working with other countries, when that data goes to other countries or through other countries. And I think that it's great that they're leading the world on this and pulling countries like New Zealand in behind. And it's good that the Select Committee did append to its report the basic principles of national application set out in Part 2 of the OECD guidelines, because they are very good principles. The principles that there should be limits on the collection of personal data, that there should be a specific purpose for which each bit of data is collected. It isn't just a broad brush collection, and there should be a limitation principle that the data should only be disclosed for those particular purposes to the right people, the right authorities, and an openness principle that what the principles that operate and the systems that operate should be open and transparent, and also safe, security safeguards principle, and the individual participation principle, that individuals should have the right to know if they're on a database, and in the New Zealand case, of course, gain access to that information, and if the information is wrong or dated, it should be erased or changed. And an accountability principle where the whole system should be accountable. So they're very good principles, and I think what we're doing with this bill today will help implement them, particularly the thing that previous speakers have mentioned, preventing information, avoiding privacy, and particularly European Union privacy laws, by passing through New Zealand and onto a country where there aren't proper privacy laws. Now, the European Union has had an ongoing battle on this issue, particularly with the United States, and that's very relevant to us because of our close connections, including private data passing to and from the United States, between New Zealand and the United States. And the two areas where the European Union has had a battle with the United States authorities are in relation to data about people who travel on airlines. For a few years there, the American authorities wanted every bit of information that an airline passenger might have used to purchase a ticket and actually alight the aircraft, including the credit card numbers of anyone who bought a ticket by credit card. And the European Union said, no, that's too great an intrusion into privacy, and there's big debates in the European Parliament, the European Union, negotiations, etc. Last month they did actually reach an agreement on that in terms of what data, a more limited amount of data, would be passed on to the US authorities. The other dimension where there's been a big argument is in terms of the financial transactions information passing through the SWIFT computer system. Now, SWIFT is sort of an international bank trading reconciliation system, and virtually every overseas transaction, including New Zealand banking transactions, New Zealand banks are among the 9,400 banks that are signed up to SWIFT. All that information passes through this SWIFT system based in Europe with a mirror unit in the United States. And the United States was saying to the European Union when it had SWIFT on its territory that we want access to every transaction to run it through our terrorist database. For security reasons, we want access to all this financial transaction information. After long negotiations, the European Union and the United States did reach an agreement. I'm not sure, I haven't studied the detail of it, whether it's a satisfactory agreement, but it does allow the United States access to that information with certain controls. There will be a European Union representative stationed in the United States to monitor whether the privacy concerns of the European Union are upheld and the principles that I outlined in the appendix of this report back from the Select Committee, whether all those principles are being properly upheld. I think it will be challenging, because the reality is that, and we've found this in previous legislation that's passed through this House, when we talk about passing on, for example, customs information onto the United States, the idea of passing it to a specific agency in the United States only for use by that agency and not to be passed on by that United States agency to some other United States agency is sort of broken down a bit, particularly with the establishment of Homeland Security, which incorporates a whole lot of agencies that are separate in New Zealand or separate in the European Union countries. So it's very hard to prevent that data crossing all sorts of boundaries in the United States. Secondly, there's the problem of the very loose nature of the United States databases and very weak privacy laws. I don't think that's really been solved yet in the United States. The terrorist database in the United States, as I understand it, has 800,000 names. Well, there's hardly that many terrorists, dangerous terrorists running around, and when people have done investigations into that database, and there have been some official investigations and tests to see how accurate that information is, they found there's a huge error rate. Up to a third of the entries are wrong. And you have a problem of all sorts of people's privacy being intruded that shouldn't, and people finding it difficult to get on airlines. Cat Stevens, who was here recently on a singing tour, he was excluded from the United States because he ended up on the American database, and he was sort of hauled off a plane, etc., etc. So there's big problems still with that. So I think it is important that we're on our toes, particularly in our dealings with the United States, working with the European Union to make sure there's better privacy systems and data protection, particularly in the United States, but in other countries around the world. We want to be a model in that respect. And I think what the Privacy Commissioner has done in this area has been fantastic too, because not only on this bill but on other bills, the Privacy Commissioner has insisted on being involved in vetting the regulations worked out to make sure that privacy principles are upheld. In earlier legislation relating to customs, it was the Privacy Commissioner who was very insistent on any data sent overseas should be for a particular purpose, for a particular agency, and not be generally transferred. So, with those few comments, I'd like to indicate that the Green Party will be supporting this bill. Thank you.